You look like you want to cry or set something on fire.
I was hoping for the second one.
Do me the honor to dance with you?
Clara Bennett's hand shook so badly, she nearly dropped her wine glass when her mother's voice cut across the ballroom like a blade. "Why don't you go check on the coats, Clara? You're good at that kind of thing." 40 heads turned. 40 pairs of eyes flicked toward her, then away, embarrassed on her behalf, or worse, not embarrassed at all, just amused. Clara felt her face burn as she set the glass down with exaggerated care, refusing to let it rattle against the table. "Sure, Mom," she said, "I'm good at that kind of thing." She walked away before anyone could see her eyes fill. The party was for her sister Vanessa's 30th birthday, hosted in the crystal ballroom of the Whitmore Grand, the kind of place where the napkins cost more than Clara's monthly grocery budget. Vanessa stood at the center of it all, laughing too loud, glowing under a chandelier the size of a small car, surrounded by people who'd known her for exactly 1 hour and already adored her. Clara had known her sister for 32 years. She still felt like a stranger in the room. She found a table in the far corner, half hidden behind a pillar, and sat down alone. Nobody followed. Nobody noticed. That was the part that hurt the most, not the cruelty, but the indifference. Cruelty meant someone cared enough to aim. Indifference meant you'd already disappeared. If you've ever felt invisible in a room full of people who were supposed to love you, drop a comment below. I want to know I'm not the only one telling this story for a reason. Clara watched the band strike up a slow number. Couples drifted onto the dance floor, hands finding waists, laughter softening into murmurs. She wrapped her arms around herself and looked down at the napkin in her lap, willing herself not to cry in a $5,000 dress that wasn't even hers, borrowed from a coworker, hemmed at midnight with shaking fingers. "You looked like you were about to either cry or set something on fire," a voice said. "I was hopping for the second one, more interesting." Clara looked up. A man stood beside her table, tall, dark-haired, maybe mid-30s, wearing a suit that fit like it had been made for exactly his shoulders and no one else's. He wasn't smiling exactly, but there was something warm behind his eyes, like he'd already decided she was worth talking to before she'd said a word. "I'm saving the arson for later," Clara said. "Need a clear head for that." "Smart, witnesses are inconvenient." He tilted his head toward the dance floor. "Would you like to dance, or would you rather sit here and plan the fire?" "I don't really know you." "Daniel," he said, extending a hand. "Now you do." Clara hesitated. Every instinct told her this was the kind of thing that happened to other people, to women in movies, not to the daughter who got sent to check the coats. But something in his face was so steady, so genuinely curious about her, that she found herself standing before she decided to. "Clara," she said. His hand was warm. The room didn't disappear, not exactly, but it got quieter somehow, like someone had turned the volume down on everyone else's laughter. They danced. He didn't ask about her job or her family or why she'd been sitting alone. He asked what made her laugh, what she'd wanted to be at 7 years old, whether she thought the band was any good. Small questions. The kind nobody had asked her in years. Clara found herself talking, really talking, for the first time in longer than she could remember. "You're not from around here," she said. "I'd remember you." "I travel a lot for work." "What do you do?" Daniel's mouth curved, like the question amused him in a way he wasn't ready to explain. "I manage properties." Before Clara could press further, the song ended, and the air in the room shifted. A flustered man in a dark suit practically sprinted toward them, 2 more staff members trailing behind him like nervous shadows. "Mr. Whitmore, I am so sorry. We didn't know you'd be attending tonight. The East Wing renovation walkthrough wasn't scheduled until—" Clara's stomach dropped. "Whitmore," she repeated slowly, "as in—" "As in I own the hotel, yes." Daniel Whitmore looked almost apologetic. "I was going to mention that eventually." Clara took a step back. Around them, heads were turning again, but this time the attention had a different texture entirely. Whispers rippled outward like a struck match catching dry grass. She saw her mother's face change first, confusion, then calculation, then something that looked almost like hunger. Clara, her mother appeared at her elbow as if she'd teleported, beaming a smile Clara hadn't seen aimed at her in a decade. "Sweetheart, you didn't tell us you knew Mr. Whitmore." "I didn't know either," Clara said quietly. "This is the moment everything starts to unravel, and trust me, it gets so much messier from here. Hit subscribe now so you don't miss where this goes." Within minutes, Vanessa had abandoned her own birthday guests to plant herself directly in Daniel's eyeline, laughing at something he hadn't even said yet. Clara's father was already shaking Daniel's hand like they were old business partners. The same family that had pointed her toward the coat check an hour earlier was now hovering around her like she was made of gold. "Clara, darling, why didn't you mention you two were close?" her mother said through her teeth, voice pitched low enough for only Clara to hear. "You could have told us. This changes things." "Changes what things exactly?" "Don't be difficult. This is good for the family." Clara felt something cold settle in her chest. Daniel, a few feet away, watched the entire transformation with an expression that had gone carefully neutral. The look of a man who had seen this particular performance before and recognized every beat of it. "I should go," Clara said, "to no one and everyone." "Wait," Daniel's hand found her arm, gentle but certain. "Walk with me, just for a minute." They stepped out onto the hotel's private terrace, the noise of the party fading behind glass doors. The city sparkled beneath them, indifferent to everything happening one floor up. "I'm sorry," Clara said, "about all of that. They're not usually," she stopped herself. "Actually, they are usually like that. I just didn't expect you to see it." "I see it for what it is," Daniel said. "I grew up around people who only valued me once they found out what I was worth on paper. I recognized the look." He paused. "You didn't change the moment you found out who I was. That's rare. That's the only reason I'm still standing here." Clara's throat tightened. "I didn't dance with you because of who you are. I danced with you because you were the first person all night who asked me a single question about myself." "I know," Daniel said simply. "That's why I'm asking for your number now." Over the weeks that followed, something real began to take root. Coffee turned into dinner. Dinner turned into long phone calls that stretched past midnight. Daniel showed up not with extravagant gestures but with consistency, the kind Clara had never been offered by her own family. He remembered the small things. He asked about her bad days, not just her good ones. But her family's sudden warmth never cooled. If anything, it sharpened. Vanessa began appearing at events she knew Daniel would attend, looping her arm through his at every opportunity, dropping comments about old friends and history that didn't exist. Clara's mother started calling daily, no longer to criticize, but to coach. "You need to be smarter about this, Clara. Men like that don't stay interested in plain girls forever. Let Vanessa help you. She knows how to keep a man like that engaged." "I don't need help keeping him interested, Mom. I need you to stop talking about him like he's a prize to be managed." "Don't be ungrateful. This is the best thing that's ever happened to this family." Something in Clara finally cracked open. "No," she said, voice shaking but clear. "This is the best thing that's ever happened to me, and you only care because of what it might mean for you." The silence on the other end of the line was its own answer. 3 days later, everything collapsed at once. Vanessa cornered Clara at a family dinner, eyes glittering with something close to triumph. "I told Daniel about the time you got fired from the bookstore for stealing petty cash. He looked really uncomfortable, Clara. I just thought he deserved to know who he's really dealing with." It was a lie. A complete, calculated lie. Clara had never stolen anything in her life, had left that job to care for their grandmother during her final months. But lies, once spoken aloud in a room full of people eager to believe the worst, move faster than truth ever can. Clara didn't hear from Daniel that night, or the next. We're almost at the turning point of this story. If you're feeling the tension building like I am, smash that like button. It genuinely helps this story reach more people who need to hear it. On the third day of silence, Clara showed up at the Whitmore Grand, heart hammering, and asked the front desk to call up to his office. She half expected to be turned away. Instead, Daniel came down himself, his face unreadable. "I heard what Vanessa told you," Clara said before he could speak. "It isn't true, none of it. I left that job to take care of my grandmother. I never stole $1 in my life." "I know," Daniel said quietly. "I had it verified within an hour. I wasn't avoiding you because I believed her, Clara. I was avoiding you because I needed to understand why your own sister would lie that viciously, and what that meant about the family you'd be tied to if we stayed together." "So what does it mean?" "It means I need you to know something." He stepped closer. "I'm not interested in being a trophy your family parades around. I'm not interested in fixing your relationship with them either, that's not my place. But I am interested in you, only you. If that means your family stays angry, I can live with that. Can you?" Clara felt tears slide down her face, but for once, they didn't feel like defeat. "I've spent my whole life being the daughter nobody chose first. I don't want to spend the rest of it waiting for them to start." "Then don't," Daniel said. "Choose the people who already choose you." 1 year later, in that same crystal ballroom, Daniel led Clara onto the dance floor as the same song from that first night began to play. This time, there was no confusion, no scrambling staff, no whispers rippling through a crowd hungry for status. Just the two of them, exactly where they wanted to be. "Last year I asked you for one dance," Daniel said, lowering himself to one knee as the room around them gasped. "Tonight I'm asking for the rest of them." Clara laughed through her tears and said yes before he'd even finished the question. If this story moved you even a little, you know what to do. Subscribe for more, and tell me in the comments which moment hit you hardest. I read every single one.